Hello, this is Snow White with my Bigfoot Diary, Part 22. This will cover March 2017. We'll start with March 5th. Sunday. This morning was pretty crazy. I put out something new for the Bigfoot on the board at the woodpile. I bought a magnetic bowl that is used to put nuts and bolts in. It's shiny and metal, so I thought they might like it. And I was curious about what they might think about it being magnetic. I put some things in it and put it on the board. This morning when I went to check it, I found it turned upside down. This reminds me of the time that they turned the shell upside down with the blue marble under it. So I'm not sure why they do this. Here's the pictures, March 4th and 5th, how I left it and how I found it. They turned it upside down. But that's not all that happened. They also brought back the wrench that I had given them, but they didn't put it anywhere that they normally do. They put it in a completely new place on the grill. And they didn't put it on the side near the edge of the porch, but instead put it on the side near the door. I don't know if they did this to be sure I would see it. I also don't know why they chose to put it somewhere different. Also, they made sure not to walk on the part of the porch with snow on it. There were no footprints. The area right in front of the grill was clear of snow. March 8th. This morning nothing was different. However, when I checked again at 6 p.m., there was definitely things that were different. First, I noticed that the dice were moved. The 5 is moved over and the 6 is on the ground. The man and the girl dolls were on the ground too, and what's interesting is that they were put together, and they couldn't have fallen like that. And the white car was also on the ground, and you can see the die laying beside them too. Top picture's March 4th. But the coolest thing was up on the railing. Today at 6 p.m., they had moved the screw from up by the washer to under the other screw. It was put in perfect alignment under that other screw. This is what I mean when I say that they seem to have OCD sometimes. They like order, symmetry, alignment, etc. Also, notice that now all the items are lined up in an orderly way. Also have noticed that they put the head of the screw in that crack on the railing. Pretty interesting. March 9th. Today the girl doll was moved a little bit and the number 6 die was on the ground again. Nothing else was disturbed. See, this 6 die had moved from fell off the opposite side of the railing. March 12th. Nothing had happened for the last 3 days, but this was Sunday, so we might expect something to happen. I went away for a few hours, and when I got back and checked the porch, I found this. They had brought me a gift. Nothing I'd seen before, so a true gift. It was a socket. And the crazy thing is that they put the socket on the screw that was in the magnetic bowl. That just astounded me. We think that they figured out the magnetic aspect to the bowl and screw and wanted to show us that they'd figured it out. Wow, now that is intelligence. Remember when I first put the bowl out, they turned it upside down? We think they must have been thinking about that magnetic bowl ever since then. We wonder how many times they may have experimented with it to see what would stick. But they figured it out, and they showed us that they figured it out. March 15th. There was a different kind of surprise waiting for us on the front porch this morning. We looked out there, and in front of my chair, and close to the front door, was a dead mouse. We have no outside animals, so how did it get there? Nobody else was here but us either, and it appeared overnight. There's no way to be 100% sure, but we think this was a gift. The fact that it was right in front of my chair is very suspicious, seeing how they have put gifts on my chair in the past. That's the view out the window and the view onto the porch. And it's a very nice looking mouse. Cute little guy. um, March 18th. Tonight I went out to check the porch at 8 p.m. It was dark. It was pretty cold out too, around 40 degrees, but even though I saw nothing, I heard over at the shed that weird bug sound that I had heard last year coming from over there. Why would there be a bug or a frog out this time of year and in this weather? And then I said hello, and I said it a couple times, and then I heard a bird start tweeting back there in the dark. That was really weird. And what is even more weird is that I realized that this was the exact same date that I had heard that sound last year, March 18th. It was the night that they gifted me that blue piece of glass plastic rock stuff, that real pretty blue. So that kind of blew me away. The same day. March 19th. At 8:32 a.m. I went out to check stuff, and as I was rounding the corner of the porch, I noticed this laying there on the railing. It was an old rusty nail, and it was partially hanging off the railing. There is no way it could have fallen there, and I'm sure I would have noticed it if it had been there yesterday. Where did they get it? Had they found it back by the shed last night? Interesting. Also, I walked back to look around the shed to see if there was any sign of them being back there. I didn't see anything that I was expecting, like foot impressions. But I did notice in the pine tree, which is right beside the shed, they'd made a pinned arch on one of the branches of the pine tree. I don't know when they did this, but I hadn't noticed it before. That doesn't mean that it was done last night, but then again, it doesn't mean that it wasn't either. And now we'll look at the pictures of the pinned arch. I think it's very pretty. I was so surprised when I saw it. Wasn't expecting that, that's for sure. Got it tucked under the branch there to hold it down. March 30th. Today was an awesome day. This morning when I was going to walk out onto the porch, before I opened the door, I saw that they had brought back another one of my husband's tools. We think that they took it last Saturday after my husband was working on our son's truck. He said that he had been using that particular tool when he was working on the truck. So we were wondering if they saw him using it and became interested in that tool. It's a ratchet, which makes a cool sound when you use it. He left the garage open pretty much all that afternoon, even when he came back in the house. From past experience, we have learned that when the garage is left open, they will go in there and take tools. So my husband realized last Saturday that he had left the garage open. It was late, it was dark. He opened the door from the house that goes into the garage and pressed the button that opens and closes the big garage door without him entering the garage. It closed, but he didn't check the door that goes from the garage out to the back porch. It must have been unlocked, and he forgot to go out and lock it. Today, when I saw the ratchet, which they had returned by putting it on the grill, which must be a new favorite return spot, I went out to take some pictures with my phone and then decided to go in and get my good camera to take some more. As I reached the back door, I noticed what looked like a little handprint on the inside of the glass. I took pictures and sure enough, it was a handprint. The print is smaller than my hand and doesn't match up to my hand. There have been no children or anyone at our house with that small of a hand. This handprint is not mine, so I believe it is from a juvenile Sasquatch. Awesome. Now I'm writing this on April 2nd. Today, when I was taking more photographs of the print, I looked around for more and found a possible one on the actual big garage door window. It looks like a partial palm print that shows the thumb area. So this is what I'm wondering may have happened last Saturday. A little juvenile snuck up into the garage to take that interesting tool and was in there when my husband quickly closed the garage door. It could have ducked behind the car when it heard my husband coming. Then after Jim closed the garage door, it was stuck in there. So it possibly went over to the big door, which it probably entered through, and put its hand on the window, discovering that it couldn't get out. Then it proceeded to the back door, which was open, thank God. It put its left hand on the window to push as it turned the doorknob with its right hand. That is my theory on what happened and how the handprint ended up on the inside of my garage door window. What I don't understand, though, is how I didn't see the print for 5 days. Unless my theory is wrong, and they got in the garage between then and today. Before I go any further, I will show you the pictures of the tool and the handprint. So this is where they returned the ratchet on the grill. See where it is in relation to the door. And this is the view through the window. And you can start to see the handprint there. The fingertips are showing, and this is my hand beside it for size comparison. Okay, there is a little handprint on the inside of my door going out to the porch from the garage. It's a little bit smaller than my hand. I can't focus on both things. But anyways, it's smaller than my hand, just a little bit, so it's a juvenile. And I tried to make my prints on the glass beside it over here. And it did leave just a little bit of a print, but it's very big, like barely visible. So it seems like these Sasquatch have really thick oils or something on their hands that they leave beautiful prints. So it measured from the top of the fingers to the bottom of the hand 5 inches, and from the side of the hand to the thumb also 5 inches to the tip of the thumb. Okay, the thumb is there. And shoot, let's see. It's really hard to pick it up through this glass. The thumb is there. The side of the hand is there. And then the fingers, the 4 fingers are there. It is a beautiful little print. And it's cute. So little. Try to zoom in on some of this for you to see. I took good pictures with my good camera. This is for detail, because this is not going to pick up detail. Okay. There the whole thing is. Hope that picked it up good. Bottom of the hand and the thumb, the side, and the fingers at the top. Shooting this at night so I can get a better visual of it with the dark background behind it. And the light from the garage is hitting it. That is awesome. I used my good cameras and took many, many pictures. I used my macro lens to get very detailed up-close shots of the fingers and details of the hand. I have to say, I was absolutely blown away at what I was seeing. Details that I can't even explain what it is for sure. I'm going to show you a couple of those here, but I'm going to do a video dedicated just to these prints because there is just too much detail to go over. And I also think that this handprint is pretty significant for the details that it shows. The handprint on the door measured around 5 inches wide. That is from the side of the hand to the tip of the thumb. It was also measuring about 5 inches from the bottom of the hand to the tips of the fingers. My hand, which is small, measures a little over 5.5 inches wide in the same position as the handprint, but at least 6.5 inches long. So it's definitely not mine, but has to be a juvenile that made the print. There is so much more to go over about this, so please watch the video dedicated to the handprint. That's all for March, but the handprint video is an extension of this diary video. I'm very excited about this print. Thank you for watching.